The scene is set on a snowy night at a secluded cabin. Inside we see that a glass of wine has been spilled onto the floor. It is revealed that the wine was poisoned and it has been consumed by our protagonist in this story, a blonde man with long hair named Ian. In front of him stands a regal man, who says that because Ian is so strong he mixed in a stronger dose, and he should be dead in minutes. Ian looks up, wanting to know why this guy has betrayed him like this. He says that it is because our protagonist is too strong. He has a power that no one else in the entire empire can compare to, and it has spread anxiety to the citizens. Ian understands, countless people have lost their livelihoods due to the misuse of magic. The man states that even he himself is so incredibly scared of our protagonist to the point where it has driven him mad. He apologizes to Ian, even referring to him as an old friend and saying that he will never forgive himself for this. He then turns around and exits the cabin, entering the night and leaving our protagonist behind. Ian remains on his knees, slowly dying from poison as the cabin begins to ignite on fire. It is revealed that he has a trick up his sleeve. He slowly removes a dagger from his shirt. While regretting everything he did in his past life, he researched a lot and came across a dagger with time magic embedded into it. If he stabs himself with the dagger before the poison reaches his heart, he will be able to have a second chance at life. He does just that, plunging it into his chest, driven by rage from the betrayal he has just suffered. The floor around him glows blue in the shape of a circle and a triangle, and weird voices chant out in an unknown language. This is it, his chance to go back to how things were before. His life and all his mistakes flash before his eyes. His mother's death, him meeting the emperor, and finally a flock of crows on the battlefield, picking at the bodies that litter the floor beneath his feet. The next thing he knows, he is in his childhood body, and there doesn't seem to be any wounds or injuries on his body. A woman calls out his name and he turns around to see his mother. She has long blonde hair and is wearing a corset. Ian is in shock. His mother, who had passed away, is alive again, and it seems like he has succeeded at traveling back in time. He turns around to look at the scene around him. There is a white tent with a white flag. Outside of the tent are a bunch of children lined up to be assessed on their skills. The people doing these assessments are the spiritual knights who decide if they pass or not. It has worked. Ian is no longer a dying man living his last moments in regret, but a child again, ready to do things different this time. Magicians are the foundation of this nation's empire, and in order to be trained, all children have to take the Mana Reaction Assessment when they turn 12. The first part is the Mana Brain, which is responsible for the manifestation of magic, and the second part is the Mana Heart that controls and generates magic. Those who have both of these talents are admitted into the Magic Academy, and upon graduation they are treated like nobles. Ian has gone back 30 years, which is further than he expected. He spent so much time researching the dagger he used and was lucky he had it on him at the time of his death. The reason he was so interested in turning back time was because he wanted to clean his hands from the blood they were stained with. He killed numerous people in his old life. He was loyal to the Emperor, who was his closest friend, named Ragnar, but it turns out the Emperor was just using him and discarded him like trash in the end. Ian isn't going to let his life end so meaninglessly like that again. He tells himself that this time things are going to be different. He leaves his mother and begins to walk over to the spiritual knights. He approaches one of the guards and introduces himself as Ian Page from Mogrian Village. The guard smiles and recognizes our protagonist as the son of Venessa. He allows him to enter the tent but tells him not to ask too much questions to the magician inside. In the tent we see the magician. He has long black hair and a ponytail. He tells Ian to lower his head a little as he is going to use mana to stimulate his brain. Ian does what he says and feels a little dizzy for a moment, but it is only temporary. The magician smiles. He has discovered the Mana Brain and the Mana Heart inside Ian and says that his life is going to change for the better from now on. Ian doesn't seem happy about this information, probably because he was already expecting it. He tells himself that it is not enough for him to just get into the academy. He begins showing off his skills, lighting a fireball in one hand and manipulating water in the other, casting 2 spells at once. He tells the magician that he was just randomly able to do this one day. The magician can't believe it and asks if Ian is sure someone didn't teach it him. When Ian says no, the magician gets serious and leans forward, asking Ian to speak the truth. He is able to use interrogation magic that can determine if a person is lying or not by analyzing the body's reaction. He tells Ian not to lie or he will be known as a traitor to the Empire, and his family may even get executed. Ian doesn't get flustered though and stands by what he said. He learned how to do that without being taught. The magician is impressed. His interrogation magic doesn't find any lies, and he wonders who this kid is. They are interrupted by the sounds of Ian's mother screaming, and he looks out the tent to see what's going on. Vanessa is being bothered by the guard that was standing outside the tent. Grabbing onto her arm, he says that she has been widowed for 7 years and shouldn't be playing hard to get at her age. The magician and 2 knights exit the tent demanding to know what all the fuss is about. The guard gets scared, telling them it is nothing and some lowly kitchen maid was just causing problems. This makes Ian furious. How dare this punk call his mother lowly? It looks like he is about to do something. However, he is stopped by the magician, who tells the guard that since Ian has the power of mana, he and his family are now equal to nobles, and insulting nobles is a crime that could lead to execution. The scumbag guard falls to the floor, begging them to grant him mercy and let him live. He then turns around to Vanessa and does the same, apologizing for the words he said and asking for forgiveness. Ian approaches the guard and tells him to listen carefully. Ian says that he knows all about the disgusting things the guard has said and done in front of his mother. He threatens the guard, telling him that he should also warn all his scumbag friends. If any of them do something like that again, he will have their head. The guard nervously says he understands. Sweat drips down his face. Bro is really scared of a 12-year-old. After all of this, Ian thanks the magician for helping him out back there. He says it was nothing and it is his job to protect fellow magicians after all. He gestures to the man next to him whose name is Lord Aaron. He is going to be guarding our protagonist and Vanessa for the time being while things are arranged. Aaron has a mustache upon his lip and a white cape on his back. He tells Ian that he is going to bring him to an inn where the Night Order is currently staying. They can live there temporarily. Ian holds the hand of his mother, agreeing to go with Aaron and start the next stage of his new life. The magician watches him leave and smiles to himself. He's impressed that someone is that intelligent and capable while being so young. He is so impressed that it looks like he is going to have to report it to the imperial family. That evening the sky is dark and the town is quiet. The guard from earlier walks down the street angrily, drunk and furious that some kid and a lowly kitchen maid were able to force him to his knees. He tells himself that in the near future he is going to get payback by getting freaky with Vanessa while Ian watches. A hooded figure can be seen behind him. The hooded figure uses paralysis magic on the drunk guard and he is frozen in place on a bridge. The hooded figure is Ian, who overheard what the guy just said about his mother and isn't happy. He removes the hood from his head and begins fabricating a story to explain the guard's death, saying he was humiliated and found comfort by drinking. He then got so drunk that he accidentally tripped into the river and drowned. While the man is paralyzed, Ian pushes him into the water and watches him drown. Ian thinks for a while on whether or not it is okay to let him die like this. After all, the whole reason he has come back in time is to be a better person this time. Looking into the distance, he realizes that he will never be able to completely wash the blood from his hands, and the best he can do is to just protect the people most precious to him, like his mother. He watches the guard's lifeless body float around, and it reminds him of how the Emperor left him to die in the cabin in his past life. Ian quickly returns home and begins feeling exhausted. Using that one paralyzed spell has depleted his mana. He tells himself that he needs to grow his small body as fast as possible while approaching his sleeping mother. In his previous life, he received recognition as a first-class magician after attending 1 year of Magic Academy. However, even though he became a magician, his mother wasn't able to live a life of luxury and passed away. Ian looks down at his mother, saying he is going to be sure to protect her this time around so she can live longer. The scene cuts to a large regal building. It is the Green River Empire's capital. Inside is the Emperor of Green River, whose name is Terry. He is blonde with a blonde mustache and fancy clothing. He is in the middle of a conversation with another magician named Herbert, and the two of them are discussing our protagonist. Herbert explains that mana is an energy that flows and circulates in blood, and from the moment someone possesses a mana brain and mana heart, they are recognized as a magician. However, in order to actually use this mana properly to cast magic, a person must be trained. Yet our protagonist was able to freely use magic without training. He compares our protagonist to someone called the First Magician. This was someone long ago who taught himself how to use mana. He discovered how to manifest magic by himself and became known as the First Magician. Terry scoffs, thinking that there is no way there is someone alive today using magic without going to an academy. Herbert agrees that it is suspicious, and even he finds it hard to believe what he has heard. He says he will be going to confirm it with his own eyes. The Emperor thinks to himself for a moment, knowing that if it is true, then our protagonist must possess a dangerous ability. He calls to the prince, who is standing outside and has been listening to everything. In walks the Prince of Green River. His name is Haydn, and he asks his father why he called for him. Terry says that since it has been 5 years since the prince has left the castle, he should go outside. Dude needs to touch some grass. Terry tells his son that he is going to give him 300 soldiers and 3 magicians, and he should go and collect a boy named Ian Page. For a moment he hesitates, thinking it foolish for him to trust his son with something so important. However, Haydn insists, saying he can be trusted and will complete the mission. The emperor tells him okay and that he should go and start preparing immediately. The journey to Mogrian is a long one. Herbert, who is still standing in the room, jokes, saying that he should go and prepare too, since it's going to be hard for him to find 3 magicians that actually want to go outside. As soon as he leaves the room, his face turns serious. His assistant next to him asks if he is going back to the tower to find the magicians, but Herbert says no. He begins walking ahead with his eyes focused, saying that there is somewhere he needs to head first. The scene cuts back to the place where our protagonist is staying. He looks out the window as if he is expecting someone. He knows the Imperial family should be coming for him very soon and things are moving as planned. Ian knows that the magician must have been impressed by his skills and immediately reported it to his superiors, and that once the current emperor found out, he would have sent the prince with a bunch of soldiers. He suspects Herbert will likely come too. He is the master of the Ivory Tower, and sooner or later there is going to be an internal war between the Imperial Castle and Ivory Tower. Ian knows this from his past life. He doesn't know which side he is going to help though, and just knows that he doesn't want to be exploited by anyone this time. His thoughts are interrupted by the Imperial Order, who have arrived much sooner than he expected. Outside he is greeted by the magician from earlier, who is holding a magic orb. He says that the emperor has issued an imperial order. Ian follows the customs and gets down on one knee while putting his fist over his chest. A message from the emperor appears from the magic orb and the magician begins to read it aloud. It states that the emperor has heard of the high abilities that have been displayed by Ian Page, and as he has received recognition as a magician in this empire, his name will be recorded in the Ivory Tower's registry. The emperor also invites Ian to visit him at the Imperial Castle, and he is sending his eldest son to accompany him there. Once the message has been read, Ian begins to rise to his feet. He is immediately greeted by a knight named Arnold, who informs our protagonist that he and his fellow knights have been assigned the honor of serving him, and will be escorting him to the Lord's castle while they wait for the prince to come. The Lord of the Mogrian territory, Marcus, awaits their arrival. He has a full beard and a fur coat. He looks over to his children, telling them to be mindful of their speech. Although Ian is young, he is still a magician, and the emperor is interested in him, so Marcus wants to leave a good impression. He extends his arms wide for our protagonist, welcoming him to their castle. Ian spends the next few weeks at the castle. He becomes a hot topic, and even the maids begin to talk about him. They are impressed that someone so young is able to create fireballs with his bare hands. We see Ian at the training grounds where he has been spending the majority of his time. He practices his magic by raising his hand and summoning a frost nova. It looks like he's got himself a fresh new fit too. His frost nova worked, and around him is now a bunch of ice and snow. However, Ian isn't happy and thinks that this isn't good enough. If he was in his other body, he would be able to freeze the whole castle, and not just the training grounds. His powers are limited and he needs something to make up for his lack of mana. Someone interrupts his training, rushing over all out of breath like something is wrong. The man has a monocle and gray hair. He asks for Ian's help, saying that the Lord Marcus has gone missing. He has yet to return after he went to hunt goblins yesterday. His son and all the knights that went too have also not returned. Ian tries to think back to his previous life to find out where they could be, but he is unsure. He knows it's not time for them to die yet. Lord Marcus died at a later date when he was assassinated by an enemy empire right before a big war. His son would abandon the Mogrian territory after his father's death to escape the war, and he would later be beheaded for his crimes. Each territory in this empire has its own stationed magician. Ian tells the man to go and ask their magician to help instead. However, the old man informs Ian that the magician that was stationed here has been assigned other missions and is not currently in the Mogrian territory. They are alone. Ian is shocked. It's rare that a magician would leave his assigned territory. He wonders if it is related to him and if he has altered the timeline by doing something. For example, he could be away giving information about our protagonist to Herbert the Tower Master. This could be dangerous. Ian's most powerful weapon right now is his ability to know what's going to happen in the future. If the timeline gets screwed up, then he would lose this weapon. Ian looks at the old man, telling him he will help them look for Lord Marcus, knowing that if the Lord dies it will create dire changes to the timeline. He immediately gets ready to leave and puts on his cloak. However, someone calls out his name. It's his mother, who has heard what is going on and is worried that it is too dangerous. Ian is still a child after all. Ian tells his mother not to worry. He may be a child, but he is also a magician now, and he'll be back before she knows it. Lord Marcus's daughter also approaches our protagonist. She begs him to bring back her mother and father, saying she will do anything for him if he is successful, whether it be money, land, or servants. She will make it happen. Ian notices a specific ring on her finger and says that he will bring them back, but asks to borrow her ring as he can feel mana from it. He says it will help him in finding them, so the daughter agrees and hands it over. Ian puts the ring on his finger and can't believe it. It looks just like the one he saw in his previous life. It's known as the Magrian ring, a low-grade artifact that increases the mana of the person who wears it. It looks like the Lord passed it down to his daughter. She tells Ian that she wants it back after, as it is important to her. With the ring now on his finger, Ian gets a party of knights and heads out to find the missing Lord. The Magrian ring will make up for his lack of mana to a certain extent. The knights take our protagonist out to where they tracked Marcus to. There is a bunch of goblin corpses on the ground, but there are no humans to be found. The knights suspect that a monster must have caught them. Ian scratches his chin. They must have been ambushed by hundreds of goblins, and he needs to find them before it's too late. He begins to use his magic to summon a wolf. What he is doing is blocked by a bright light, and the knights watch in amazement. After the spell is cast out, appears a cute little wolf with a fluffy body and wagging tail. In Ian's previous life, a huge wolf appeared, but he guesses he isn't strong enough to summon a full-sized one yet. He points to some blood on the floor, asking the wolf to pick up the scent and follow it. The wolf does as it is told, getting a good sniff of the floor and leading the way. The scene cuts to Lord Marcus, who is still alive and slaying goblins. They are green and ugly, with long tongues, pointed noses, green skin, and red eyes. Marcus and his party are surrounded, and they are coming from all angles. If this continues, they will all be annihilated. Marcus turns to his son, telling him to escape to the castle while he distracts the monsters. While the two of them are talking, a goblin begins approaching from behind with a club in its hand. The son calls out at the last second, but it is too late. The goblin is already high in the air, and is about to bring its weapon down on the Lord's head, who has his back turned to it. Suddenly, a flash of ice appears and all of the enemies are frozen in place. The green scenery turns to the Arctic, and everyone wonders what just happened. The ice came from Ian, who has arrived at the last second to save the day. Any longer and the Lord would have died and the timeline would have been ruined. Marcus is so surprised by the situation and the sight of a child saving him that he begins to pass out. When he wakes up again, he finds himself back in the castle with his daughter by his side. She explains that Ian saved everyone, and the Lord and his son have both been asleep for 2 days straight. The old man from earlier enters the room and is glad to see Marcus is awake. He appears to be a butler, and his name is Hogger. He explains that 12 soldiers didn't make it back, and Marcus is upset by this news. He asks where Ian is now, as he would like to meet with him. Hogger leaves right away, rushing to the training grounds where he finds our protagonist. He says the Lord has woken and he would like to meet him in the reception room. Apparently there is a lot he wants to talk about. Ian looks a little confused as to what he could possibly want, but follows Hogger inside. Here he finds Marcus and his son, whose name is Lobai. They thank Ian from the bottom of their hearts for saving them. The Lord says he protected both Magrian's current and future leaders. Not only this, but he also protected the territory by defeating the goblins, and he wouldn't feel right if he didn't repay him for this. He gestures to a box on a nearby table, giving it to Ian as a reward. Ian opens it and finds the Magrian ring that he borrowed inside. Marcus heard that Ian had felt mana in it earlier. He thought it was just an old family treasure and asks what kind of power it possesses. Ian explains that it is just a ring that gives the wearer the power to increase their mana, and it helped him greatly in defeating the goblins. The Lord says he can keep the ring, and he should think of it as a token of promise that from now on the Magrian family will serve him forever as an eternally honored guest. Ian is always welcome to visit, and they will always stand by his side whenever he is in need of help. Marcus and Lobai lower their heads, saying that this pledge will last for future generations and will go on for 1,000 years. Ian is grateful and asks the Lord if there is an alchemist in this territory who is skilled in making elixirs. Marcus informs him that there is an alchemist named Letio in a place called Royd Village. He was originally from the capital but moved further north because of a rare medicinal herb. Ian heard of the name Letio in his previous life. He knows that he needs to get his hands on some elixirs that can help make up for his low mana levels. He heads out with a small group of knights to find this Royd village that the Lord told him about. When they reach there, they become shocked at what they see, and one of the knights points over to the village. It's completely on fire and is in the middle of burning down. Something bad is clearly happening. Inside the village, we see a bandit with an eye patch and a bloody hatchet over his shoulder. He tells his men to take the children so they can quickly move on to the next place. They grab a boy who kicks and screams, begging not to be taken from his family. The boy's name is Douglas and his father calls out to him in desperation, telling the men to stop. However, the guy with an eye patch appears behind him and kicks him to the floor. He keeps his foot on the father's back so he can't move. Douglas continues to struggle, trying his best to get free of the villain's grasp, but it's no use. The guy with an eye patch pulls out a knife, saying he is going to kill Douglas's father to punish him for putting up a fight. He gets ready to swing his knife. A sudden piece of ice comes seemingly out of nowhere though, striking the villain in his back and taking him out. Douglas can only watch, still stuck in the grasp of another man. The remaining villains all look over wondering what just happened. A piece of ice really just appeared on a sunny day. More pieces of ice begin to rain down from the sky, like they were sent from God himself. The men all flee in terror, not wanting to die like their leader. It is revealed that this ice has come from our protagonist, who is perched on the edge of a nearby cliff looking down on the situation. It seems like his new ring really does help and has increased his mana a bunch. He looks down at it, wondering if it allows his mana capacity to reach that of a third-class magician. He walks down to join the people in the village who are mourning over citizens who were killed by the bandit attack. Luckily none of the knights were injured. Ian wants to know if the alchemist they came for named Letio managed to survive. He hears someone in the distance calling the alchemist's name and he immediately turns around to see who it is. It's Douglas, and it seems like his father is the alchemist our protagonist has came here for, but he is in bad shape. Ian pushes past Douglas, wanting to get a better look at Letio. He sees that he has a pale complexion and strands of whitened hair, and he can tell this is mana poisoning. Mana poisoning is a disease also known as God's curse. If someone who has a mana brain and not a mana heart is injected with more than their body can handle, the overflow of mana will stimulate the brain and cause great pain continuously for the rest of their life. Ian knows it's impossible for Letio to inject mana into himself, and so this must have been the work of a magician with ill intent. He raises his hand to the alchemist's forehead and tries to alleviate the pain a little. It works and Ian gets ready to leave, seeing that there is nothing more he can do. However, the boy Douglas grabs a hold of him and asks what he just did and if his father is going to be okay. Ian unfortunately explains that his curse can't be cured and he only provided temporary relief. Eventually he will just go back to being in pain again and will face a tough decision. Either he finds a magician to keep alleviating his pain for the rest of his life or he dies. Douglas looks heartbroken. He says that he needs to quickly go and find a special flower so that he can make some medicine for his father. He says this flower can help neutralize the mana in his body. He pushes past Ian and rushes to go and get it. At this moment Ian remembers where he heard the name Douglas before. In his past life Douglas was one of the most outstanding alchemists in the entire empire. Although he had a tough childhood, he was a genius and eventually became the emperor's closest aide. However, he had a deep hatred for magicians after his father was poisoned by one, and may have even been the alchemist that helped to poison Ian in his past life. After realizing this, Ian turns around and catches up to Douglas. He grabs a hold of him and tells him that he can't go into the forest alone as there might still be bandits out there. Douglas objects, saying if he doesn't get this flower then his father will die. A tear runs down his cheek. Seeing he isn't going to stop, Ian uses his magic to put the kid to sleep. After a few seconds he is out cold and collapses onto Ian's shoulder. He takes the kid to a discreet location behind some bushes and lays him down, thinking about what he is going to do. He looks at the boy thinking that he should just kill him now, that way the poison will never get made in the future. He quickly pulls himself together. The timeline could get screwed up if he acts too rashly. Douglas possesses the talent to become the best alchemist in the history of the empire, and our protagonist might even be able to convince him to join his side. However, even if he does this, there is still no guarantee that he won't betray him in the future. Ian's thoughts are interrupted by one of the knights that has come over to check if he is okay. He notices Douglas on the floor and is confused. Ian says that he just put him to sleep because he was about to do something reckless while there is bandits about. Ian tells the guard he can carry him back to the village now, then he begins walking away into the forest. When the knight asks where he is going, Ian says there is something he needs to do alone. The scene cuts to nighttime back in the village. Letio approaches Douglas, who is awake now and lying in his bed. Letio has heard from a knight that he tried to do something stupid earlier. Douglas explains that he just wanted to find a flower that could help. Letio shakes his head, telling his son that it was reckless to try something like that when there are still bandits around the village. Douglas gets angry. Rising out of the bed, he asks what else he is supposed to do. The two of them have been searching for this special flower for over a year with no luck. If they don't find it, then Letio will die. Douglas begins crying, wondering if this flower even exists. Suddenly, a voice calls out to them from outside. They both turn their heads at the same time, asking who's there. It's a cloaked man who says he heard they were looking for a flower known as Randier's flower. The man enters the building and removes his hood. Of course it is our protagonist who apologizes for disturbing them. He introduces himself and puts an object down on the table. Letio looks speechless when he notices exactly what it is. It's Randier's flower that has been encased in ice. Ian must have found it in the forest earlier. Ian says he will give them the flower if they answer a question first. He wants to know how they learned about a flower like this whose effects are unknown to others. Letio reluctantly reveals that he read about it in a book that was passed down by his father. It sounds hard to believe. However, he pulls out this book and flips to a specific page. Then he begins reading from it. Randier's flower is a plant that can neutralize mana and can only be found in the northern lands. It has 12 deep purple-colored petals, and its leaves and stem are very poisonous. If you pull it directly from its roots it will wither immediately, so gathering and cultivating it is almost impossible. Letio explains that his father researched alchemy too, and it is a family business. Ian assumes that this must mean that he knows about this flower's other use, which is that it acts as a deadly poison to magicians who possess both a mana heart and mana brain. Letio insists that his family would never make elixirs that could be used to harm people, and he won't be poisoning any magicians ever. He even swears it on his entire family's honor. Ian looks over to Douglas on the other side of the room. He looks a little nervous at the topic of conversation being discussed. Ian picks up the flower and begins to melt the ice. He thanks the alchemist for answering his question but also apologizes to him. Once the ice melts, the flower withers, and Ian reveals he wasn't able to harvest it properly and was only able to preserve its shape by freezing it. Letio feels let down and betrayed. He wants to know what kind of sick joke that was. Our protagonist only bought the flower over to prove that he can actually find it. He proposes a deal to the alchemist, saying that he will continue to alleviate his pain using magic while searching for a way to harvest the flower. However, in return Letio must follow him into the capital, where Ian wants him to produce special elixirs that can help his lack of mana and to also make medicine for his mother when she gets sick in the future. Letio is confused. He asks why he can't just get someone else to do it since he isn't even that great of an alchemist. Ian insists that he needs someone who is going to stay by his side and make custom elixirs. He tells the alchemist to take a moment to think about it, and that he should consider his family too, since earlier today Douglas was about to risk his life just to find the flower, and he doesn't want that happening again. Letio goes up to the side with his son to discuss things, and our protagonist watches them. He thinks about what happened in his previous life. Back then Letio died due to an evil magician and Douglas was captured by bandits. This is what led to him meeting the Emperor Ragnar and hating magicians, and eventually what led him to creating the poison that killed our protagonist. Ian watches them closely, telling himself that he isn't going to let any of that happen this time, and he is going to make sure they both live good lives. The next morning comes around and Ian is getting ready to return to the capital. One of the knights approaches him and tells him all the preparations are complete and they can now leave. Ian hangs his head in disappointment. He still hasn't gotten an answer from the alchemist and assumes this must mean it is a no. Right as he is about to leave, the door opens and out comes Letio and Douglas. They have reached a decision and are going to come. After all, they don't have any other options, so they have to give it a try. Douglas looks over to Ian and asks if he will really be able to cure his father of his curse. Ian smiles and says that he promises. A deal is a deal. This makes Douglas happy and he says he is going to call our protagonist boss from now on. Ian finds this a little weird but allows it. He finds it weird seeing Douglas so cheerful, since when he knew him he was always so grumpy. One of the knights speaks up, saying they should head back to the Lord's castle immediately. He has just received word that the Prince Haydn has crossed the Gamas River and will arrive shortly. Ian is surprised to hear they are there so quickly and that they have only just contacted them. He tells the knight that he will need to borrow his horse if he is going to make it back in time. He approaches the mighty steed and uses his magic to tame it, asking it to take him back to the castle as fast as possible. The horse lowers itself to the floor, making it so Ian is able to climb onto the saddle. Once on his back, he turns to the alchemist and the others, telling them to take their time and that he is going to go ahead. He prepares himself to ride off into the distance. We cut to the prince, who is traveling in a white carriage surrounded by soldiers. Inside the carriage, Prince Haydn seems to be in deep thought about something. He remembers a conversation he had with his father before he left. His father told him that one of the other princes has started to become close with the Tower Master Herbert. The Tower Master has a lot of influence and who he sides with is very important. He says that currently Herbert is more in favor of the fifth prince taking over the crown instead, whose name is Ragnar. The Emperor tells Haydn that if he doesn't want to lose his position to his brother then he better not screw this up. He needs him to do his best to get Ian on their side. Haydn remembers this conversation while in the carriage and it makes him stressed. He's angry that the magicians at Ivory Tower don't support his claim to the throne, and instead they want his brother Ragnar to take his place. He thinks to himself about what he is going to do when he finally becomes emperor, saying that he is going to get rid of all those annoying magicians at Ivory Tower along with their tower master Herbert. It is also revealed that Prince Haydn didn't tell the Lord Marcus he would be coming until 2 days before his arrival on purpose. He smiles to himself, wondering how the great Mogrian Lord is going to prepare for his arrival with only 2 days' notice. This dude just seems like an all-around terrible person, I'll be honest. Currently at Lord Marcus's castle there is a lot of panic and rushing. Marcus orders his maids around telling them to make sure there isn't even a speck of dust anywhere. It needs to be perfect for the prince. He had no idea they were arriving so soon and has had barely any time to prepare. The butler Hager approaches, informing him that most of their party has arrived and the prince won't be far behind. However, they are still unable to locate our protagonist and it seems like he isn't going to make it in time. Marcus holds his head knowing he is going to have to greet the prince without Ian, who is the entire reason he is coming. It doesn't take long for Haydn's carriage to pull up, led by numerous horses and knights. He steps out like he is about to walk the red carpet, with a long white cape and a blue jacket. Marcus still looks nervous, knowing our protagonist is nowhere to be seen. Luckily, the horse shows up at the last second, with Ian lying on its back like he has been sleeping. He raises his head, apologizing to everyone that he is late. Ian gets off the horse and steps forward with Marcus to greet the prince. Haydn looks down at him, asking if he is the child magician that everyone keeps talking about. Ian just remains silent. It's been a while since he has seen Prince Haydn's face and he takes a moment to take it in. He also recognizes some of the guests he came with. One of them is a girl named Cecilia who was a spy from another empire in his previous life. Everyone enters the castle and later we see Haydn drinking some wine next to a knight. He is the captain of the Second Imperial Knight Order and his name is Oliver. Prince Haydn is annoyed and says he hates everything here except for the wine and he doesn't like our protagonist either. Oliver just stays quiet, not wanting to say anything that could make the prince more annoyed. Elsewhere in the castle is Cecilia. She is a spy from the Cold Wood Empire. She has been given orders to confirm if the rumors about Ian are true, and if they are she must capture both him and his mother alive and bring them back to the Cold Wood Empire. She looks around but can't see him anywhere, so she begins to wander around trying to find him. She finds Ian outside at the training grounds. It's the middle of the night and bro is still out here. Cecilia smiles to herself while sneaking up on him. She decides to check if he is really as strong as people say and prepares a magic attack. She decides to just use a weak attack and sends a bunch of magic missiles down onto Ian. He reacts quickly by putting up a shield. He then turns around asking why she would greet someone in this way. The woman smiles, saying she was just playing a prank on her junior. Ian gets serious though, addressing the woman by her full name, Cecilia Coldwalker. This wipes the smile off her face as she realizes her cover is blown. She asks Ian how he knows her name. Ian's face appears sinister. Of course he knows her name. He was the one who got rid of all the Coldwalker spies that were hidden in the Empire in his previous life. He slowly begins approaching her, while naming the names of all the spies that are here. Cecilia backs up in shock, thinking that Ian is crazy and she definitely wasn't expecting him to know all of this. Eventually she realizes that Ian is just a kid though, and she is a much older magician. She smiles and prepares to launch a fire attack, sending a curtain of flames out in front of her where our protagonist once stood. She says that even if he knew she was a spy, it was foolish of him to reveal that he knew. She assumes he is dead until a foot steps out from the flames. He is very much alive and smoke evaporates from his body. He begins to charge up a magic attack of his own. Cecilia looks up at the sky and her eyes grow wide. She wonders who exactly this kid is and why he is so strong. The moon is blocked out by a bunch of ice crystals that are about to rain down. Ian tells Cecilia that he was expecting her to come and find him, and he was waiting at the training grounds just for her. He raises his hand, launching the ice crystals forward like bullets. Cecilia quickly reacts and puts up a shield, protecting her from the incoming projectiles that strike it with great force. Things don't look good for her and the shield begins to crack when faced with the power of Ian's attacks. Ian doesn't stop with ice. He summons a huge fireball in the palm of his hand. He then pushes it forward in the direction of his enemy. It's at least 3 times the size of him. Cecilia can only grit her teeth and hope for the best as her shield slowly breaks down. She isn't able to move while it is up. Some of the attacks break through, slicing at her arms and legs. She realizes she isn't going to be able to keep this up. as the fireball comes crashing and she releases her shield and tries to run out of the way before it hits her. She collapses onto the floor and is just grateful she is still alive. Her body is covered in wounds and her cheek is cut. Cecilia thinks that Ian's mana should be depleted by now, and someone will for sure arrive after hearing the commotion, so she should be okay. Ian slowly approaches and says he is going to expose her to everyone, telling them that she is a spy. Cecilia smiles, knowing that there is no evidence to prove something like that and there's no way people are going to believe a kid over her. Ian smiles too though, saying that he has evidence on the Coldwalker spies that even she doesn't know about. It doesn't take long for the Night Captain Oliver to arrive along with others. He asks what happened. People rush over to Cecilia to check on her injuries, helping her up off the floor. Ian speaks up, saying that he caused all of those injuries. Everyone quickly turns their heads to look at him. He continues, making up a lie that he saw Cecilia talking to someone wearing a mask, and when Cecilia spotted him she tried to kill him to shut him up. Oliver finds this hard to believe. However, Ian claims that he has proof. Apparently Cecilia has a special marking branded on her body that all Coldwalker spies have. Oliver demands that Cecilia has her body searched for this marking, which causes an uproar. Two men stand in front of her saying that this is inappropriate. He claims that they are all just magicians that were sent by the Ivory Tower. However, Oliver pulls his sword. The prince is staying here and he will get to the bottom of this incident to make sure it doesn't put him in danger. He signals to some other knights to come over and search Cecilia. They do as he says and there is no more arguing. After the search, Cecilia looks unhappy. Blood still covers her clothes and she is badly injured, needing immediate medical attention. The knights inform Oliver that they couldn't find anything on her body that resembled a marking. The Night Captain looks over to our protagonist, wanting to know if he was lying. Ian assures him that he wasn't. He walks up to Cecilia and places his hand on her back. He casts a magic spell and a blue light emits from his fingertips. Cecilia looks worried and asks what he is doing. Suddenly, the marking he was talking about appears on the back of her neck. It's a circle with a triangle in the center and weird symbols. Cecilia didn't even know she had this and Ian smiles to himself. Coldwalkers are sent to training institutes while having a mark branded on their body from when they are babies. Even they themselves don't know this information. Ian found this out in his previous life after interrogating an administrator. Oliver and the others are shocked. However, they have no idea what the marking means and haven't seen it before. Based on the current situation, he thinks it would be best to treat Cecilia's wounds first, and then interrogate her later. He turns to two other magicians, telling them to prepare a mana prison to keep her from escaping for the time being. He then turns to Ian with a serious expression. Stars shine in the night sky behind him and his sword shines in its sheath. If everything Ian has said today turns out to be the truth, then Oliver says he will have to report it to His Majesty immediately. This is exactly what he does. He heads straight to Prince Haydn and tells him how our protagonist managed to beat Cecilia, a third-class magician. Haydn is impressed and didn't think the child was that strong. He asks Oliver what his opinion on Ian is. Oliver states that it seems like the rumors about his skill are true, however the way he speaks and behaves is unusual for a child. The prince wants to meet and talk to the boy so he can find out for himself. It doesn't take long for Oliver to get Ian and bring him into the room. Ian lowers his head and greets the prince with respect. Based on what Haydn has heard, our protagonist has discovered that one of the magicians sent by the Ivory Tower was a Coldwood spy. Since Ian exposed the spy and beat her in battle, Haydn says he has contributed greatly to the Empire, and he would like to reward him. He wants to know if there is anything specific that Ian wants. Ian becomes suspicious, thinking that the prince must be asking what he wants so he can find out what he is up to. Ian looks up, saying if the prince is okay with it he would like to visit the old Ivory Tower's site on the way to the Imperial Castle. Haydn is baffled, wondering why this kid wants to visit the old abandoned Ivory Tower site as a reward. There is nothing to see there. He ends up agreeing though, when Ian says it is a place he has only heard about and he has always wanted to visit. Ian smugly smiles to himself. It looks like he's going to be able to attain it much sooner than he thought. In the deepest basement of the old Ivory Tower site there is an item known as the Dragon Tongue Book. The dragon's language in the book played a crucial role in his research of time magic in his previous life. This one book contains the records of the essence of time magic. He found it a few years before he died but was only able to understand a very small part of it. He wonders how much he will be able to understand if he studies it from this young age. It doesn't take long for nightfall to hit and everyone begins their long journey to the Emperor's Imperial Castle. Ian's mother Vanessa is excited, as this is her first time traveling so far out from Mogrian. Letio the alchemist begins to flirt, saying he will be Vanessa's guide when they reach the capital. even though he doesn't look like it. He has lived and worked in the capital for a long time. Vanessa blushes, thanking the alchemist for being so kind, while Ian remains silent, wondering what this guy is doing flirting with his mother. They are interrupted by the vice captain of the Knights named Paul. He has green eyes and a blue ribbon around his body. He says that they have arrived at their detour to the old ivory tower site. They are going to be staying here for 2 days, and during this time Ian can explore the historical site whenever he wishes. Paul leads everyone to a nearby village to give them their accommodations for the next couple of days. The village seems quiet and cute, nothing too fancy and not a place you would expect royalty to stay. The commoners greet the prince upon his arrival, saying they are honored to have him here. Haydn thanks them for their kindness. Ian looks over and is surprised to see the prince acting so nice towards the commoners. When he met him in his previous life, he always greeted him with hostility, appearing gloomy and giving him dirty looks. This was because our protagonist was always alongside his brother, Prince Ragnar, who he knew was trying to take his future position as emperor. Now in this life, Haydn can be seen smiling brightly, having conversations with commoners who are not nobles or royalty. A part of Ian begins to understand why the current emperor is so fond of him. A voice calls out Ian's name. It's Douglas, who wants to know when Ian plans on going into the old ivory tower because he would like to tag along as well. Ian sighs, knowing that he probably won't be able to find the book in the basement with Douglas by his side. He can't bring himself to say no though and agrees. Douglas's eyes grow wide. He's super excited to go inside. Their parents are both watching them from a distance. They are glad to see their children are getting along. Letio turns to Vanessa, asking her if our protagonist has always been so mature. He doesn't act like other 12-year-olds. Vanessa reveals that he matured early. He remembers her late husband a lot and is very thoughtful and considerate. Even though he doesn't say it, Vanessa can see him trying to fill the absence of his father in the family. His father wasn't a magician like him and was just a normal person named Prayan. Before Ian was even born, he went to work one day as usual, and then suddenly went missing. Bro really went to get the milk before his child even left the womb. He left a bunch of items behind for them that they only received 5 years after his disappearance. Still looking over at her son, Vanessa begins to struggle to get her words out. She has noticed that recently Ian seems different. Letio is concerned and tries to comfort her. However, Vanessa just says that it's probably nothing. They get ready to go to sleep for the night as it's going to be a busy day tomorrow. In his previous life, Ian traveled by following the wind and the stars. The unifying war had ended and he had left the ivory tower and emperor's side. He spent his days traveling around without a destination in mind. This was how he stumbled upon the old ivory tower site and the book in the basement. He wonders if it was a pure coincidence or if there was something there that was calling out to him. Here he stands in the same place but in his childhood body. It looks exactly like it did in his previous life. 300 years ago, a war between the Ivory Tower magicians and the dragon's descendants took place here. The dragon's descendants were known as Dragonians. Their gargoyle squad and powerful black magic was strong, and it seemed like they were going to defeat the Empire. A skilled magician and the prince of the Empire at the time named Mitchell led the Ivory Tower. They actively suppressed the Dragonians and annihilated the gargoyles, protecting the peace within the Empire. After the war, Mitchell refused to become emperor, and instead became the Ivory Tower master. He built a new tower in the current capital, and this old one was abandoned. It has been a long time since people have even cared to step in this place, and it has fell into ruin. Ian walks around the rubble searching for a specific spot that he remembers from his previous life. When he finds it, he waves his hand, casting magic to open a secret passage. The passage is dark and has a long staircase leading downwards. He follows it. Upon reaching the bottom, he uses his magic again, this time to light up the room that is hidden from any sunlight. In front of him stands a gargoyle statue, its wings spread wide and teeth sharp. Ian was surprised when he first saw this gargoyle statue, but it's not going to catch him off guard this time. Suddenly, the gargoyle comes to life. Its eyes glow purple and it lets out an echoing roar. It leaps into the air, coming straight for Ian. In his first life, he had no idea that a gargoyle he thought went extinct 300 years ago would be hiding here. Things are different now though, and he uses his magic to summon a ball of water. He launches it at the stone monster, striking it in the chest. It flies backwards and crashes into a nearby wall. It's not dead though and recovers. In his previous life, Ian was able to blow it away in a single breath, but with his current abilities, he is going to have to use more power. The gargoyle comes charging in again, eager to cause harm to our protagonist, who readies his next attacks. He summons his ice spears to shoot out of the ground and pierces the gargoyle's rocky body. He then uses a lightning attack to zap the beast. Bolts of yellow electricity crash down from above. That seems to have done the trick, and the gargoyle has stopped moving. Ice surrounds it and smoke comes from its body. After it is defeated, another secret passage opens up to Ian's right, which is exactly what he expected to happen. He jumps into the hole, using his magic to stop him from taking fall damage. He has found what he came here for. The book sits alone on a nearby surface with a light shining down on it. Ian has reached the Great Dragon Tongue book sooner than he expected. He has no idea who put it here. Whether it was the dragons or the first magician, it doesn't matter, because it is his now. He holds the book in his hand. It is written in Dragon Tongue, which is an unknown language that he wasn't able to fully decipher in his previous life. If he could understand it in this life, then there will be no limit to his power. Ian becomes shocked though when he opens the book and discovers that all of its pages are empty. He begins frantically flicking through it, wondering what could have happened. He realizes that the pages are probably empty because he already used the book in his previous life. Using it to turn back time probably erased everything. Ian closes the book in disappointment. He still remembers some of the magic that was written in the book though, and tries to recite some of it. To his surprise, he can't get his voice to come out. Dragon Tongue isn't a language that people can simply just speak. It's a language that is rooted in magic and requires strong magic to speak it. Ian looks down at the book in deep thought. This means that he won't be able to use the time magic in this book again, meaning he can't return to the past again. He thought he would be able to keep going back again and retrying, but that isn't the case. The second life he has been given has all of a sudden become much more important, and he needs to take it seriously. A few days pass and Ian completes his journey to the capital to meet the Emperor. He looks out the window of his carriage and the scene around him. Tall buildings made from stone and a bunch of citizens that seem happy. He looks over to another carriage he has been traveling with, and at the back is a cage. Inside this cage is Cecilia. Ian knows he needs to make sure she doesn't escape, or else she will go back to the Coldwood Empire and tell them that he knows all about their secrets, which would cause problems for our protagonists. The party continues riding into the capital, making their way to the Imperial Castle, until they are blocked. It is Herbert the Tower Master, who is standing at the gates alongside a row of magicians. He demands that they stop. Oliver gets off his horse, asking what authority Herbert has to be blocking the path to the castle. The Tower Master explains that he has a direct order stating that he is in charge of everything related to Cecilia's investigation. Oliver seems suspicious, wondering how he managed to get an imperial order for something like that before she even arrived in the capital. Herbert puts his hand on the knight's shoulder, saying that all rebellions should be dealt with as quickly as possible, and that the Ivory Tower will handle this interrogation. Oliver knows something fishy is going on but can't argue with a direct order. He tells his men to hand over the criminal Cecilia to the Tower Master. Upon hearing the word criminal, Herbert turns around seriously. He says that she has not yet been proven a criminal and so should still be treated like a regular magician. He tells Oliver to be mindful of how he speaks towards her. The other knights aren't happy with the situation either. They worked hard to catch Cecilia, and the Ivory Tower magicians are just going to take her away. Ian looks over and understands what's going on. He knows that the Ivory Tower isn't trying to protect her just because she's a magician. They just don't want the knights interrogating one of their own. He knows that Herbert will probably just lock Cecilia up in the deepest prison, and it will be near impossible for her to escape from that place. He looks out the carriage with his mother, not bothered at all that Cecilia is being taken. Someone approaches our protagonist, saying they need to visit one more place before going to the Imperial Palace. They go there and it is a large regal mansion, with a water fountain at its center. Ian recognizes the mansion. In his previous life it was gifted to him by the 5th Prince Ragnar. This time it is Prince Haydn who is handing it over. He tells Ian that the Emperor specially made arrangements to give him the mansion during his stay. Ian is grateful. He lowers his head and thanks His Highness for his generosity. He didn't get the mansion until he was 26 in his previous life, yet here he is as a child. Haydn tells Ian that his family can stay here with him for the time being, but now the two of them must go to the Imperial Palace to see the Emperor. Ian understands, but asks if he can show his mother around his new mansion first. Haydn accepts and Ian takes his mother inside. She is stunned by everything she sees. It's all so expensive and shiny. She becomes even more stunned when Ian tells her that this is going to be their new home. No matter how great of a magician he was in his previous life, he couldn't bring her back to life. Now that she is alive again, things are different, and he is going to do all the things he wanted to do before. He was never able to see her living a normal life and vows that this time he is going to make her happy. Vanessa can't believe her own eyes. She says the place is so big that she has no idea how she is going to clean it. She really is a true mother, thinking only about cleaning. Ian informs her that she isn't going to be doing any housework. She is going to be so comfortable that she won't even think of having to clean. The new mansion is nice. It has many windows and white brick with a blue roof. However, it is now time for Ian to meet the Emperor. He heads over to the Imperial Palace, which is much larger. Red banners hang in multiple places and everything is perfectly symmetrical. Ian is nervous. Even in his previous life he was never able to meet the current Emperor alone because by the time he had graduated from the Magic Academy the Emperor was already on his deathbed. He was said to be someone with outstanding judgment and wisdom and Ian is looking forward to learning about him. While walking through the palace he spots a familiar room across the courtyard. It's the room of the 5th Prince Ragnar. He was the son of a concubine. He resembled the Emperor in appearance but his personality was completely different. He was cold-blooded and merciless. Ragnar was our protagonist's old friend and worst enemy, the man that poisoned him at the start. Ian continues walking. Clenching his fist he wonders what he is going to do with Ragnar when he sees him again in this life. They arrive at the Emperor's room and the guard gestures towards the door telling him to enter. His Majesty awaits. The white and gold doors swing open and Ian stands in a fancy outfit. The time for him to meet the Emperor has finally arrived. The Emperor sits on his throne. It's tall and made from white marble with red cushioning. Upon entering, Ian immediately kneels down to the ground. As a humble servant he wishes the Emperor health and peace. The Emperor Terry tells him not to try so hard and to rise. Ian has achieved so much in so little time and there is no need for him to use manners. Ian does as he says, remembering that the Prince Ragnar said the same thing to him in his previous life when they first met. Next to Terry is his son Prince Haydn who waves and smiles, asking if our protagonist likes his new mansion. He does. It's more luxurious than he ever could have imagined. Sweat drips down his face as he is still nervous in the presence of the royals. Terry asks if Ian knows the reason he has brought him here, and the reason he was gifted a mansion as soon as he arrived. Ian doesn't know what to say. Should he be more direct and speak his mind or hold back and be respectful? He remembers the Prince Ragnar liked people that were honest and straightforward, and there is a high chance the Emperor is the same. However, he ultimately decides it is too soon for him to act so confidently and for now he should just continue acting like a 12-year-old. He replies to the Emperor's question, saying that he thinks he bought him because he's a little talented. Terry folds his arms, asking if Ian really thinks he went through all this trouble just because his magic abilities are unusual. Haydn snaps at his father to be more patient. Ian is just a child that doesn't know much about politics. Terry sighs. It's true that he called our protagonist here because he thought highly of his talents, and he was a great help to the Empire in catching the spy. The Emperor sits on his throne saying that Ian should be rewarded for his achievements regardless of his age, and that is why he is here. He asks what he wants. Ian looks down at the floor. He was expecting a reward from the Emperor, and has spent a lot of time thinking about it. If he was an adult, what he is about to ask wouldn't make sense, but since he is just a child, he can get away with it. He tells Terry that he would like to go sightseeing around the Imperial Palace, so he can tell his mother about all the beautiful things he sees. The Emperor finds this request a little unusual. However, Haydn informs him that he also asked to go sightseeing at the old ivory tower, and it must be a passion of his. It's normal for children to be curious after all. Terry grants our protagonist's wish and hands him an imperial seal. It's golden and shaped like a ticket. Using this he should have access to most of the Imperial Palace, and if he shows it to a royal guard they can guide him around. The Emperor continues, saying there is more stuff he would also like to reward Ian with. He has his servants bring in a giant chest filled with gold. I don't know how they carried that thing, it looks really heavy. He also gifts Ian a bunch of maids, saying he will send them to his mansion to make sure his stay is as comfortable as possible. Ian can't believe it. It looks like his mother isn't going to worry about cleaning anymore. He thanks the Emperor for his kindness and leaves. He closes the door behind him and takes a deep breath. The Emperor sure is different from the others, and Ian seems to think he is suspicious of him. He begins walking off, assuming that the Emperor must be like that with everyone, just like Ragnar was. For now Ian needs to get a move on. He doesn't have much time and wants to use his imperial seal. He goes outside and shows it to a guard, asking if he can show him the way to the garden. The guard obliges. After some help he arrives in the place he wanted to go, the imperial family's safe haven. He remembers it from his previous life. Ragnar described it as a sacred place where people would serve the emperor and empress, and only the most elite can enter. Ian sneaks inside. He peeks around a corner trying to see if there are any guards around. There are a few, but they are all sleeping. They've got to be the worst guards ever. Ian sneaks up to them and uses his magic to make sure they are really unconscious. He then begins to walk around looking for something. It's unclear what he wants, but he knows it's somewhere around the first emperor's coffin. It takes a while. He checks everywhere using his magic to light the way until he eventually finds it. His eyes grow wide and he is unable to even believe what he is seeing. This is the whole reason he wanted to explore the palace. The item he has found is stone heart mushrooms. They are brown and capped and are sticking out of the floor next to a coffin. Ian rushes over there and harvests them. He puts them inside a brown bag thinking that this should be enough for what he needs. Suddenly he hears the voices of two people talking nearby, and they are approaching. He quickly turns off his magic light and hides, wondering who it could be. It's a magician and he seems to be worried that he shouldn't be in this place. The person he is talking to is one of the princesses, Princess Harry, who has long blonde hair and a blue jacket over a white dress. She assures the magician that they both have legitimate reasons to be here. At the moment it is unclear why they are down here, and Ian secretly spies on them for a while. The magician, whose name is Kevin, is worried and thinks the ivory tower should know about what they are doing. However, Harry insists that they can't find out as it would be too dangerous. Kevin asks her if she has memorized the basic spells that he taught her, and the princess smiles, saying that of course she did. She begins to demonstrate her magic powers by letting her mana flow and summoning a ball of light. Ian looks over in complete shock. He had no idea Princess Harry could use mana. He remembers her from his previous life. She spent her whole life in a cage like a bird. When Ragnar became emperor, he executed Prince Haydn, which broke her heart and ultimately led to her ending her own life. Ian can't believe this woman is a magician and is hiding it from everyone. In this empire, hiding the fact that you possess magical talent from the ivory tower is a very serious crime. The magician Kevin must also know this, yet has agreed to help her practice magic secretly, which is why they are down here in this secluded place. Ian leaves and the two of them turn around after hearing a noise. Kevin freaks out. Not wanting to get caught, he says they should just end today's practice early. The Princess Harry tells him to relax and that only the imperial family can enter, so she is sure they are alone. Ian makes it outside without being spotted. He has learned many surprising and interesting facts today. To think that the princess has committed a crime by hiding her talent. He realizes that she probably did this because she is scared of the ivory tower. The Tower Master Herbert clearly wants her brother Ragnar to inherit the throne, and having a powerful magician in the family could change that, even making her a target for assassination. Ian continues with his day, exiting the garden and thanking the guard for showing him the way earlier. The guard asks if he enjoyed himself, to which Ian replies that he did with a smile on his face. He rushes back to his new mansion ready to make use of the mushrooms he just found. As soon as he enters, he is greeted by a butler who takes his jacket, and the alchemist Letio. Letio explains where everyone is. Vanessa is in another room talking with the new maids that have arrived from the Emperor, and Douglas is looking around the mansion having a good time. He's never seen a place so big. Ian is happy to hear everyone is doing great and asks to talk with the alchemist privately. The two of them go into a secluded room and our protagonist shuts the door behind him so no one can listen. He looks at Letio with a serious expression, asking if he can make a secret potion for him. Letio is confused, wanting to know what kind of potion he needs and why it is so hush-hush. Our protagonist pulls out the stone heart mushrooms he just collected. They are able to numb nerves and can even stop a heart. He pulls them out of the brown bag and shows them to Letio. This just makes the alchemist even more confused. How can he be expected to make a potion out of something so poisonous? His purple eyes are baffled and his hair with white streaks comes down onto his face. Ian explains that he needs a potion that will make him immune to interrogation magic, which is when a magician is able to tell if someone is telling the truth or lying. He stands in front of Letio asking if this is something he will be able to do for him or not. Letio has heard of interrogation magic before and doesn't know if it is even possible to make a potion to stop it from working. He says that he is going to need to run a lot of experiments to get it right and that it is going to take him a while. Our protagonist expected an answer similar to this, knowing that it is not an easy thing to ask. He tells the alchemist to just do his best and to take his time. While they are discussing this, someone knocks at the door to the room they are in. Upon opening the door, Ian sees that it is a maid. She lowers her head to show respect and is holding a tray with a letter on it. The letter is addressed to Ian. He removes it from the envelope and begins reading it. He sees that it is from the Ivory Tower. It states, "Dear Magician Ian Page, just like the Imperial family, the Ivory Tower eagerly looks forward to meeting you. We would like to schedule a meeting with you before you start attending the academy. You are already a decent magician who possesses abilities beyond the average magician, and it will be hard for you to relate to the students who can still only use beginner's magic. Therefore, we would like to arrange a simple meeting with you exactly a week from today." After reading this letter, Ian gets a little worried. If he is going to be visiting the magicians at the ivory tower soon, then he needs to prepare. He changes his mind to what he said earlier, telling Letio the alchemist that he will be needing the potion in a week and he should move quickly. He needs it before his meeting at the ivory tower. Letio thinks that this is going to be impossible and that even if he sacrifices his sleep he is going to struggle. He wonders what on earth he is going to do in order to get it finished in time. Ian just apologizes, but assures Letio that he needs the potion in a week no matter what, so he should try his best. He's confident in his abilities and is sure he can do it. Going to the ivory tower without this potion would be fatal. Part 1 ends here. If you are interested in a part 2, support the video by hitting the like button and commenting the word magic. Also consider subscribing so you don't miss the next upload. Thank you and take care.